Hey everyone, it's me, David Sirota. We had planned to release an episode today about the propaganda machine that twists our thinking about crime and punishment. But as we were putting the finishing touches on that episode, a wave of breaking news hit, and it was a total gut punch.
We are coming on the air with breaking news right now and an update on conservative activist Charlie Kirk. President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building about 200 yards away while he was speaking at Utah Valley University.
And then, within the same hour,
this is not good news. This is difficult news to sort of digest. Another shooting at a school in Colorado today. 3 critical victims, 2 of which we believe to be students.
In light of yesterday's news, we opted to postpone our planned episode. This moment feels too dark to just go about our usual business. It feels like we're hurtling towards something truly awful. So instead of our regularly scheduled episode, I'm going to take a few minutes with you to get some things off my chest. After the assassination of a state legislator in Minnesota a few months ago, I found myself thinking about a movie I saw last year. I didn't really like this movie, but the idea of the movie continues to haunt me.
19 states have seceded.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The 3-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
This movie was called Civil War. Yeah, I know. Not a very clever name. Just like its plot, the title was pretty on the nose. The film was set a few years in the future, but lately, it feels like it could have been set in the present. It feels like we're on the precipice of living inside that movie's reality, as if our generation is about to write a whole new verse of We Didn't Start the Fire.
British politician says JFK blown away. What else do I have to say?
But this all feels way worse than a catchy Billy Joel song. Right now, it feels as if we're all trapped inside a political system, a media landscape, and an economy that are all interminably pushing us towards a cliff, towards the abyss of an actual, real-life civil war. I don't know what it felt like to live through the 1960s, when political violence surged and the country seemed to be tearing apart. Maybe for you boomers who lived through that, this all feels familiar. But I feel like this must be as bad or worse, because the 1960s were before everyone was glued to screens at all times, before whole algorithm-powered business models were built on making us hate each other and see each other not as political opponents, but as fight-to-the-death enemies. I'm not going to give you one of those can't we all just get along speeches here. I'm not going to give you Barack Obama's trite red states and blue states speech. I get it. We Americans have huge differences over very real, very serious life and death issues, whether it's healthcare profiteers immiserating us, warmongers supporting a genocide in the Middle East, or an authoritarian government disappearing immigrants. But once we accept deadly violence as a normal part of American life, once we convince ourselves that violence is a reasonable way to solve all of our disagreements, well, then we're done for. That's it. That's the end of our civilization. And that kind of demise can go really fast. I really don't know the motives of the person who killed Minnesota Democratic Representative Melissa Hortman. Here's what I do know. Her murder was wrong. We don't yet know the motives of the person who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. What I do know is that his murder was wrong. And I can't believe I even have to say that, as if it's bold and radical to say killing another human is unacceptable. Now, I vehemently disagreed with Kirk's political agenda, including, by the way, his opposition to gun control. Right now, many folks on the internet are sharing this clip.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
I disagree with that. We do not have to accept gun violence as a consequence of the Second Amendment. But we also do not have to accept a society where people whose politics we oppose, even their gun control politics, are gunned down in cold blood. The blast radius of that sort of violence strikes all of us. It attacks our civilization, and it forecloses on possibilities. We cannot shoot our way to an end of mass shooting. We cannot end genocide with a genocide. We cannot kill our way to freedom and democracy. We cannot burn the village down to save it. A burnt village is gone. The same is true for school shootings. I don't know or care about the motive of shooters. I care about the fact that children are shot. And we now seem to just accept that kind of violence as normal and impossible to avoid. What we desperately need right now in this country are leaders who lower the temperature, leaders who will try to pull us back from the brink. We used to have some leaders like that, even in our country's most fragile moments, when America seemed on the verge of an actual civil war.
In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in.
This was New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy in 1968, on the day that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
You can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land, with an effort to understand, compassion, and love.
2 months later, Bobby Kennedy was also assassinated. Today, it feels rare to ever hear the sentiment in that RFK speech, especially on the political right in the age of Trump. And true to form, rather than trying to calm everything down, the current divider-in-chief put out a social media video just hours after Charlie Kirk's assassination, blaming conservatives' political opponents for the killing, even though the killer's identity wasn't even known.
Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
Now, I want to say, that wasn't the only thing we heard in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's murder. I was genuinely heartened to hear this from at least one Republican yesterday.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States.
This is Utah Republican Governor Spencer Cox, whose policies I oppose, but whose statement here I really appreciate.
We desperately need our country. We desperately need leaders in our country. But more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case.
So do I, but it so often seems those with great influence over our mass psyche are not all that interested in lowering the temperature. We have a president right now who seems mostly interested in using the bully pulpit to actually bully people, inflaming every cultural conflict he can stick his nose into, all for the cause of grabbing more power and money for himself and his family. We have a Congress full of aspiring social media influencers who seem more interested in dropping hot takes on Instagram than in passing legislation that actually helps anyone other than their donors. Rather than lowering the temperature, they pump out the kind of rage bait that we saw from Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace yesterday.
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today.
Meanwhile, Traditional corporate media has shifted its focus from investigative journalism scoops to content that keeps us all in a state of maximum fear and loathing. At the same time, partisan media outlets and social media try to compete for our attention by firebombing us with incendiary headlines. A few months ago, it was people celebrating the murder of a health insurance CEO. Yesterday, after Charlie Kirk's murder, it was a right-wing magazine editor tweeting that, quote, Democrats are a domestic terrorist organization. Big tech's social media algorithms shove sanity, facts, and dispassionate journalism into the shadows while rewarding hot takes that generate maximum engagement. They monetize outrage. And the problem is not that people are rightfully upset, it's that so much of the anger is aimed at the wrong things. We're fooled into being angry with each other rather than at all the solvable problems around us. I personally have been working hard to try to stay sane through this carnival of darkness, mainly by trying to limit my exposure to those algorithms. I'm in the journalism business, so it's not easy to unplug. But as the kids say, I've been trying to take time to touch grass. I'm logging off more. I'm reading books in physical form rather than on a screen. And I'm scheduling more face to face time with friends. And when I am online, I'm trying to be more mindful of exactly how our modern media system is trying to hack my brain with some video or tweet designed to make me hate the world. If you're feeling like me, I encourage you to seek ways to protect yourself from the brain poison emanating from politics and social media. I implore you to be mindful of the media that you're consuming and to make a conscious effort to expose your mind to more than just dopamine hits of rage. These days, I'm on the hunt for reporting and storytelling and deep thinking that expands my consciousness and reminds me of what it's like to be human. But the truth is, nobody is immune from today's culture of nihilistic anger. If you read my writing, you know I'm angry about all sorts of things. And every now and again, I let it fly on social media too. Sometimes I want to scream like Howard Beale in the 1976 film Network.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Of course, we all have good reasons to be pissed off at the current state of affairs, just as Howard Beale was in his day.
Everybody knows things are bad. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
But our anger is so often misguided. We're encouraged to channel our anger at each other rather than at the entire system crushing us. It's so often an anger focused on hating our neighbors and people we disagree with, rather than on our collective failure to actualize the solutions that would reduce human suffering. It's an anger too often encouraging us to believe that violence is the only solution, when violence is really the path to our demise. We have to remember Howard Beale's message. If we're going to be angry, we need to be angry at the systems and manipulators attacking our humanity before it's too late.
I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
So as bad and as demoralized as I feel right now, and I'm guessing you feel right now, I want to leave you with that same message. A message that the algorithms don't want you to think, that social media will not promote, and that you've been taught to view as unappealing, weak, or naive. It's a simple message. Whether you're a leftist, a liberal, a centrist, a conservative, or a MAGA fan, your life has value, and your political opponents' lives have value too. You can hate your adversary's ideas, and you can fight hard for your cause. But the moment we stop seeing each other as human beings and we start concluding that violence is the answer, that's the moment we let the soulless corporations, the ruthless authoritarians, and the sociopathic demagogues win. Their nihilism and their greed are creating the conditions for a civil war, one that we must all do our part to stop before it becomes unstoppable.